Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Naturally Chicago webinar, Compass Group, Selling to Food Service 101. Happy to introduce Jim Slama, Managing Director of Naturally Chicago, to get things started.
Thank you, Bob. Natural Chicago is so excited to host this members-only webinar, Compass Group, Selling to Food Service 101. For the past year or so, we've strategically been thinking, how do we help our brands go beyond retail? While retail is the holy grail, and if brands are ever going to fully experience the growth that they want as a business, they need to excel at retail. It's also extremely difficult. It's expensive, complicated, and in some cases, very difficult to do and make any money until they achieve a certain amount of scale. And so in conversations, we realized that for some brands, retail or food service is a tremendous way to move into some new markets in ways that might be less expensive and ultimately provide a good diversification in sales for the right brands. And so as we pursued this, we came across Eve Lee and her programs at Compass Group. Compass is the largest food service company in the world, and we're excited to introduce them to brands in our locally made program. Natural Chicago's senior strategist, Greg Keller, is leading today's webinar. Greg is a great friend and colleague who brings world-class experience to our community. For many years, he was a sales leader at Kraft, where he learned all about selling at one of the world's biggest food companies. He then became a founding partner of Frontera Foods, where he led sales until it was acquired by ConAgra. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I do want to thank everyone for being here. We were obviously hoping to get a good crowd, and we well exceeded our expectations. Um, we're going to start with some introductions and some questions, but down at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button. And as we go through, would like you to put your questions into that. And Jim's going to be kind of monitoring the questions as they come in and either, perhaps call on you to express your question or say it, or he'll read it from the questions that you submit. So with that, I'd like to start by our introducing our panel. We've got a couple of our hometown Naturally Chicago friends, Trish and Jenny from Everybody Eat, and Jenny's with Phoenix Bean and Jenny's Tofu, and then Eve Albert and Kristopher Murray from Compass Group. So I think let's start by just having each of you introduce yourself. Eve, why don't you go ahead and start, and then Kristopher will let you follow. Well,
Thank you to Jim and Greg and the Naturally Chicago team for having us on today. I'm excited to have the opportunity to speak to all of you. Some of you I already know and recognize your names from the participant list, so great to see you. My name is Eve Albert. I come from a very small gourmet food shop and catering company in Chicago, and a few years ago moved over to the behemoth known as Compass Group, and I work for a company called Envision. Envision is essentially our resource team. We're like in-house consultants. And so we are part of Compass Group Corporate, and we work across all of our different lines of business. So Compass Group really is sectorized, and we've got sort of an education, a business and industry, which includes sports and entertainment, leisure, and then a healthcare division. So Envision works across all of these different verticals and provides resource programming and support throughout the business. I specifically sit on the retail team and work on retail programming and promotion.
Chris?
Thanks, Eve. Thanks, Greg. All right. So, hello, everyone. My name is Kristopher Murray. I'm a district manager with Compass Group. Currently, the sector I'm with is Chartwells. I've been a part of Chartwells for about a year. But for the most part, I've been with Bon Appetit for past 7.5 years. Bon Appetit Management Company is another sector under Compass Group. My career has predominantly been in Chicago, even though I traveled a lot for Bon Appetit. Prior to joining the team with Bon Appetit and Compass, I was the executive director for culinary for Washburn Culinary Institute at a key time when, if you remember, when Whole Foods started their company in Inglewood, and they were going through the selection of local operators, local suppliers. And so that connecting my timeline as far as my entry into Compass and working with Bon Appetit has really helped me as far as foraging for local operators and retail suppliers. And so this opportunity today is a continuation of that process that I've been involved with as far as with Compass Group.
Fantastic. Trish and Jenny, a lot of us know you, but please say hello.
Hi, I go first, Trish. Should I? All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Greg and Jim. And then Chris, we have another connection then that's from the Inglewood store. I was there doing demos quite often when they first started. But so how we, as a Phoenix being, by the way, even though I've been with Chicago, naturally Chicago for a long time, but just introduce myself as formally. I'm Jenny Yang. I'm the president of Phoenix Being and Jenny's Tofu. We produce, make fresh tofu and soy milk every day. For the last 40 years, we use traditional methods, wash, clean, soak, and then stone grind to make the tofu keep the flavor, keep the nutrition facts, it's all there. And we also we get into Meijer. We started Whole Foods at Meijer. We are all in Asian stores, but last summer was really a major turning point for us. We get into Northeast regional Whole Foods. We're at Meijer's, we're at the Fresh Time, and then Mariano's, Wisconsin store, Kroger's. So we're really excited that we also be able to do the food services as well. If during pandemic, we didn't have the food services account, we're done. We're pretty much all done. So in the food services side, we work with Midwest and the distributors. So now we're in Chicago, University of Chicago, Wheaton College actually as well. And then some hospitals and then some institutions like cafeteria of the companies. So it's all related to being able to be part of the Compass Group. I was very fortunate.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Trish Thomas. I'm the co-founder of Everybody Eat. And we started out, we launched the brand on March 1st, 2020, and March 11th, we shut it down, moved it into our living room. And in Eve's past life, she was one of our very first customers. When my husband Dick was the delivery guy in his face mask driving all over town. Ours has been a journey of manufacturing capacity. And so hopefully what I'm going to share today is don't try to go too fast, because if you disappoint people, it won't work out. Everybody Eat is in about 4,000 doors right now. We're set to probably triple that this year because it took us 4 years to build scalable manufacturing. We just opened a new facility back actually in Evanston. We converted the former Nissan car dealership up here into a food factory. If you're in town, come visit. And we've been slow rolling food service since the beginning. The Protein Bar Restaurants sells our food. We're on several college campuses around the country. Crafty has us in some offices. So we were just piloting food service to see how we do. We were in a couple airport stores because we weren't really ready to scale, except that we're about to ship 16 pallets to Compass next week for a larger test.
Which is a good segue into Eve, you're on the corporate side of Compass. Could you kind of give us an overview of this massive company that you're working with?
to say that I've been here for now 3 years, and it's the onion that keeps on peeling is an understatement. Things move very quickly, and at the same time, very slowly. So, yeah. So Compass Group is the largest food service company that you've never heard of. I mean, really, we're the largest contract food service company in the world. We are a UK-based global company. So you've probably, there isn't usually anyone that hasn't heard of one of our companies. So if you've been in college quads, hospital dining rooms, ballparks, museums, cafeterias, corporate cafes, airline lounges, senior living communities, they're all, under our purview. We are the nation's largest family of food service and facilities services, serving more than 13 million meals and maintaining more than 1.9 billion square feet a day. So large is a bit of an understatement. Not that I want to, I don't want to scare anybody, but yeah, we're on the larger side.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about, food buy as well, specifically because that's kind of the purchasing end of it.
Yeah. So Compass Group is essentially, we are a sectorized business, and the way that we run is we have, we own all of these companies, but essentially they all run themselves based on their own values. We have some overlying core missions and values, but really they run themselves. And one of our key, probably one of our most key businesses is Food Buy, and they are our procurement, sourcing, compliant distribution arm. And Compass Group is actually Food Buy's largest client. Food Buy also services what we call members. So like an HMS host, many hotels, casinos utilize the purchasing power of Food Buy to be able to run their businesses as well.
Sounds good. Just one more add-on question, if I could. You mentioned in your introduction, Envision. Can you help us understand that part of, how that works and how that all comes together?
Sure. Envision isn't really most of our clients don't necessarily know who we are. We really are an in-house consultancy firm. So we've got, a retail team that helps with data optimization, internal training. We've got a market brand that we support and several different iterations of that market. And then we also have, wellness and nutrition teams that help support from a dietary wellness and nutrition standpoint across the business. We've got a design and build team, that repurposes spaces. It's design and innovation. Our sustainability team has moved into the global category, but they had previously been part of our group. And then we've got a brand partnerships area as well. So, again, we really are a support and resource team to be used across the business and facilitate many different projects and programs that the business can use to help grow their clientele.
Fantastic. Thank you. Kristopher, as you're local in the Chicago area, can you help us understand your role and your team and how that all fits in?
So the Compass's method, as far as how they work with the operators, is that they really support entrepreneurship as far as how we strategically enter the market, as far as what supports the contracts, right? So with my position with Bon Appetit, which was very unique as far as the mission statement, that not only did they work with Food Buy because that was part of being part of Compass, but they were able to have a carve out where they had probably about 16%, 70% of items that were locally sourced. So either from local farms or from what they considered locally crafted emerging brands, right? And so that's a key point to mention because each one of the sectors has a different mission statement, and sometimes we're collaborative and sometimes we're competitive. So for working with Chartwell's right now, they may not have a eat local or a locally crafted mission overall, but they have a Love Local segment, which supports working with locally produced goods and local retailer groups and emerging brands. In addition to that, the unique aspect of the team I'm part of right now, which is part of Northwestern, is that under the one umbrella, we are collaborating with our sector colleagues. So that includes not just Chartwell's, Levy, Canteen, etc. Canteen is important because they also have, under their sustainability profile, working with local partners whenever possible, right? And as you know, or may not know, Canteen is the largest national vending company in North America. So the opportunities that Canteen are securing right now, fulfilling their vending requirements or expectations with clients, is a great segue for emerging brands and small, medium-sized businesses that have something different, particular to offer, bring to the table. And overall, as you asked, as far as what our team does, I try to find the best items that meet the customer's expectations. And if we don't currently have it, to see how we can kind of siphon it through some of our distributors as best as possible so that it can be fully vetted by Food Buy or meet the company goals, but also support the customer or consumer expectations. So, like I said, Compass supports, kind of that entrepreneurial drive and that strategic look for search for the best retail options that are out there.
Thank you so much. Jenny, that probably leaves a good segue into how you got to start working with the Compass team. So maybe you could take us through that a little bit, please.
Yeah, how can we get? I would say I'm just lucky. I got rolled in. No, it's I would say I really don't know that it was Compass at all. I just get lucky. But I will guess that, working with Chris at Bon Appetit was a starter point. That was years ago. And I think it's a farm to fork program.
Yes.
Something like that. And then we are local foods. We work with local foods to do it too. And then let me see. And then we work with Midwest. We always work with Midwest all this time. We are they like us. We're women owned both. They're Midwest as well. And we are also what you call kosher, organic, and we also have SQF certifications. And then the Midwest just like, oh, great. And then we have a very solid full circle sustainability program. So when Midwest become a contracted provider to to Compass, and then we become their Compass provider. I think that was the kind of slow way of saying we have been partnership, and our distributor become the preferred choice, and we become the tofu provider. So that's a long way, but we made it. We were just at the University of Chicago doing a food demo there.
It's fantastic. Eve, I know in an earlier conversation, we talked about some of the programs that you have so far as incubation and some of the certification requirements for being a minority vendor. Could you talk a little bit about that with us, just so everybody understands?
Sure. So for the majority of brands at Compass Group in general, the encouragement and the corporate message is to buy through Food Buy. But it is not an easy nut to crack. It does take a bit of time and persistence. And so, we had many of our different sectors coming to us and saying, hey, when we're saying, hey, what resources do you need to improve upon your business? And they were all saying, well, we really want to carry more diverse brands. We want to carry more local brands. We want more wellness, sustainability. And so, we went to the drawing board, and it's far too many different areas and categories to spend a certain amount of time working on each individually. So what we did is we built a program, which is the first Envision program, that really does bring in product specifically, that doesn't bring in just food buy specific product or food buy contracted product. And so it's called the Retail Incubator. I have a few slides that I'm happy to share because I think that this is going to be really helpful for the group to be able to look at it from a visual standpoint. So can everyone see my screen? Or
Yes, we can. Yes.
Am I on the right screen? Okay, cool. Okay, so as I mentioned, the Retail Incubator was really born out of the demand to have sort of emerging brands and innovative products that weren't necessarily contracted. So I don't like to necessarily call it a loophole, but it is a bit of a loophole to be able to have access to the Compass Group business without having to go through the contracting process with Food Buy. And just, I'm happy to send these slides out afterwards if anybody wants that. I can send
Thank
it
you.
to
If you send them to us, we'll share them with everybody. Thank you.
Perfect. So it is an Envision-based program. I think I mentioned, a bit about Envision before, but again, Envision is a company that's a resource team that is used across all of our business verticals. And did just want to give a bit of an explanation. The first question most people have for me when I talk about the Retail Incubators, they're like, oh, I've heard about that. Is that the Food Buy Accelerator program? And there is a big difference. So Food Buy, the procurement arm, as we mentioned, does have a supplier diversity team, and they have a program. It's called the Accelerator program. And the Accelerator program is really a mentorship program for minority or diverse owned businesses that can apply to be part of this annual year-long program. There's usually between 8 and 12 different companies that are accepted. They get paired with 2 Food Buy mentors that help them not only grow within the Compass Group business, but also it's a bit of an education model as to how to grow in the food service industry in general. So it is more of a behind the scenes, back of the house program, whereas the Retail Incubator is really a front of the house, consumer facing, retail based program. So I'll send this out again, just wanted to give a bit of the differentiation between the two. So getting into the Retail Incubator, the types of products that we bring in, Right now, we are only bringing in ambient sweets and snacks. Unfortunately, when we first started, we did have beverage and refrigerated. Based on our distribution right now, unfortunately, we can only work with ambient providers, but that is something that we're looking to sort of upgrade and source. But in terms of the buckets, so we align with the National Diversity Heritage Calendars of the month, and each month we bring a diverse, a local, and a responsible brand. So diverse is pretty straightforward. We do only work with certified companies, and I can go in a little bit after this about why it's important to be certified. But there is a fine line between minority founded and minority owned, and really what that means is that you have to be certified in order for it to become a tiered spend, in order for one of our businesses to get qualified diverse spend. And in order to get qualified diverse spend, you have to have a certification. So as mentioned, our Food Buy supplier diversity team does vet and verify all of our certifications, make sure that they're all up to date. But they do ensure that all of our brands are certified in order to bring them into the program. Local, we've had to sort of massage the definition for local. So manufacturing is primarily where most people think of, what most people think of when they hear local. But where a product is manufactured isn't really necessarily where the product is headquartered, which is typically on the back of a package. So you can't really feature a product if it was manufactured in Chicago, but you're headquartered in New York and the back of the package says New York. You put it in Chicago and people just don't understand. So we've had to manipulate the definition a little for the front of the house. So what we've landed on is we support businesses that are approximately 150 miles or headquartered 150 miles from our priority markets. And we started early days in New York, folded in Boston pretty early. 2023-24 was quite a bit of expansion based on business request. And now in 2025, we've added three new regions in March, and we're going to be adding another 3 in July. So I know that we're primarily focused on Chicago in this conversation. Luckily, Chicago is one of our robust local markets. So if you can support the volume, I would be happy to talk to anyone that fits this criteria. Responsible is really our biggest bucket. It could either be, you can be responsible if you are based on the product qualifications, that you can see some of those attributes here. Packaging, compostable, reusable, recyclable, really important to our business right now and all of our clients. Or it could be, the social impact of the brand. So a great give back program, or 1% for the Planet B Corporation. So those are the types of businesses types of companies that we support. The diverse and the responsible are national brands. So, and then obviously local stays local. But one of the interesting things, and Trish can speak to this later, is that you can start as a local brand and then sort of graduate into our national programming. So Everybody Eat was one of my first favorites. So they have started in local, and they're moving into, as Trish mentioned, our national program in March to celebrate Women's History Month. So just a bit of a plug for the program. I mean, we did start with 3 locations in New York. Now we have over 1,000 locations in April. We're in 11 different markets. Now I think we're actually in 43 states. So we've had the pleasure and the privilege to be able to support 40 different diverse brands, over 100 local brands, and 30 responsible brands within the program. Everybody's favorite question: how do you distribute? We have a distribution partner that really supports the program. What they do is they bring in all of our identified brands. So they pick and pack those together. So we take the diverse, the local, and responsible brands, they put them into one box to make it really easy for our operation team. Minimus is a boutique distributor. They're very easy to work with. The onboarding is very simple. We had been working with some other larger, more robust distribution networks, but it was a little complicated, not only for our suppliers, especially those that are emerging, but for our business as well. So Minimus has 2 distribution houses, one in California, one in Ohio, that support our entire program nationally. Really one of the biggest pillars of the retail incubator program is the storytelling. So not only do we want to have amazing products, at the right price, that taste great, that have a great story behind them, but we really want to be able to tell that story. So we've developed a very robust print, digital, and mobile app marketing program to support. So all of our signs are brand based. We do try and feature pictures of people rather than pictures of product. We have a lot better consumer engagement when we have a face to represent the company. And then you can see, there's a few bullets about the product or the brand itself, a lot of the certification logos. All of our local signs have a city to really authenticate the headquarters. And then all of our signs have a QR code, and that links to whatever you want it to. So whether it's a video that you've put on YouTube, or you're on the news and you've got that, link available on a Dropbox, or whether you just want it to link to your social media, that is really how we sort of drive the messaging home and allow another opportunity for our clients, consumers, to engage with the brands. And that's a bit about the retail incubator.
Fantastic. Trish, good. Eve gave you a good intro, so you can kind of tell us how you got into Compass and kind of some of your experiences, please.
Sure. And of course, my generator is automatically going off for its monthly test at the moment. So hopefully that's not bad. Well, it's funny. We started out we started in Evanston and I teach at Northwestern. So we first started selling to Northwestern, but they couldn't really officially buy us because we couldn't get into food buy. We're actually still not in food buy. So it takes some time. It's not something I understand, but it really, I think, as Eve said, we came in through the local program, right? We came in first through the local program. We tested our cheese list, our fiery chili lime, and I think one or two of the cookies. And we didn't have our final packaging, but we made them by hand in pouches so that we could deliver enough for the test because we were still waiting for a machine to show up. And I guess Eve, that test was successful, and now we're rolling out into over 1,000 locations, I think, right? But will we be classified now as a woman-owned business or a responsible business? Because we're sort of both based on our ingredient profile and our second chance workforce.
That's my favorite thing, is that when I can have the ability to put you in one bucket or another. Right now, you're being featured in the program as a women-owned brand, but all of your signage and storytelling does have all of your different attributes and certifications. So we are telling the full story, but you are an orange sign.
All right. Well, we got the no seed oil certification. So I don't know if anybody told you. I'll get you that.
Perfect.
That's
We love to hear it.
That's another good one. So, Trish and Jenny, if you could, as nice as Eve and Kristopher are, working in food service in general is not a walk in the park. So, could you just kind of help us understand some of the hurdles that you may have encountered, some of the things that, as people think about trying to enter food service, what do they need to have? What should they be aware of? Maybe if you could talk a little bit around that.
Okay, I go first. I think it's a lot of things that we just need to be, cognizant about. I feel that we have been working with Bon Appetit for so many years. We have been working with Midwest so many years. But when we come into the point that can we get into Northwestern, Evanston, in their cafeteria, that is coming to the point that we need to be very competitive. So I feel like, advice is, don't think you're a yen and you are the only choice. No, you have to be competitive. You have to make sure that your program is strong, your quality is good. Actually, we extended our shelf life to 60 days. We will be, very competitive compared to other commodity type of a tofu. And we also be part of the BIPOC program. And they came over to videotape us. I thought, we're in, but we need to maintain rooted that we have to be competitive.
Yeah.
So it's not it's something I think it's great for people to know anyway.
I think it's you have to be competitive and patient, right? So I mean that has been my big learning curve, and don't tell my kids, but that I think that patience is the ultimate virtue for food service. It's not only that we were targeting food service early because the Americans with Disabilities Act says that any institution that receives federal funding has to accommodate medically mandated diets under the law with equal access and enjoyment. So we thought, that should be us. But I think that if we would have gotten into Compass early on, we would have failed. We weren't ready, right? We didn't know that we've made product improvements over the years. We've made packaging improvements over the years. By the time that we're doing it now, we've improved our volumes so that our cost of goods manufactured has gone down, and we're ready, right? It's like training for a marathon. And as much as I would have loved to do it 2 years ago, we shouldn't have done it 2 years ago. We weren't ready. We couldn't have anticipated volumes that, when you're entrepreneurs, you think, oh my gosh, I just have to get in. And then you realize like when getting in is like 1% of what you have to do, right? Like the rest happens after that. So that's where I've learned is to be patient and test things in small ways and see if they work, right? So if we felt confident in terms of our pricing structure, creating a value pack, because we had tried it on outlets that we could get in, like a couple airport stores and some restaurants, those kinds of things, a couple colleges that we got into on our own, which is not ideal and hard to administer. But I think that test and learn. So when you're really ready, you're really ready.
And did you, were you required or did you find it beneficial to develop packs specifically for the Compass or the food service channels that you were working with?
We did. And Greg, we couldn't make them efficiently. Like right now, everything's in sealed pouches, but it would take as much manpower to do a big pouch as it would a small pouch. So in our case, we needed some machines. So the machines showed up a year later than planned, but they're here and they're working. And so if we would have had to continue to hand pack the small bags, we would have lost money on everything that we sold. But we did use those small bags to test the portion sizes in other places. And in fact, we're going out with a 1.1 ounce, but I think that we need to move to a 2.2 ounce. So the learning doesn't stop, or to give the buyers that optionality, but like test small, make small mistakes, and then it lean into test bigger and hopefully not make as many mistakes.
So the production flexibility, I think both Trish and Jenny, you say, was one of the benefits that you've had as you're now growing.
Yeah, we definitely get to, we have one unit with, water tub and traditional packaging, but we also have 5.5 pounds, we have 9 pounds, we have 27 pounds. So there's all the food services, the higher you go per ounce wise, it's the cheaper it gets. So I think that's be patient and develop and test it. And then that totally agree with what Trish said.
And since we're both kind of rare in that we're doing the manufacturing, I think the other way to do it, if you're using a co-packer, is let's say your standard size is 4 ounces, right? And you want to test something, you might buy smaller packaging on your own and hand pack them just so that you could get it in the market, see if it works. Because sometimes to have a co-packer do a custom size for you would cost a fortune. So you'd be better off doing it inefficiently in a little way just to see if it works before investing tons and tons of money, and then it might not work.
Fantastic. And then just for the group, as mentioned at the outset, we do have a Q&A bar on there. Jim's back, so that means there's a couple questions that have come in for Q&A that Jim, I'll let you try and share with us.
Thanks, Greg. And by the way, this panel is great. Really appreciate all the knowledge that each of you are sharing with our members. So we haven't done this before, so I am going to try to get Adrienne McCallis to answer her questions live.
Yes.
So Adrienne, do you have access now? Can you?
Yes, I do. Hi.
Hi. So you have a couple of questions there, Adrienne. Do you want to answer, or do you want to ask them for the crew?
Yeah, absolutely. And it might not be appropriate, as though this call seems to be geared towards CPG specifically. But we are a co-manufacturer in Elk Grove Village, and we have a line of white label snack cakes that we're trying to, kind of get into the fray and try to move into food service with. We're in some grocery outlets currently and are working that angle, but would love to see these, in all the different places it could be where the Compass Group reigns. And so I guess my biggest question for me and my group is, do you guys work with specific brokers? Is it, how do you get white label samples in front of the Compass Group?
Can speak to from more of a retail standpoint. We've got some culinarians that do work with more of the back of the house product. We actually just this year hired promoted from within our first chief culinary officer. So we do have a very robust culinary network that does look at lots of products. Each sector does have some culinary innovators that manage from their own perspective. So I think I'd have to do a little more digging to find out what the best route to market would be to get into Compass Group from a back of the house perspective. But as to your question about a broker, I work with many brokers. I lean on brokers to bring me product because doing product research is like the world's largest black hole.
Yeah.
And so I do lean on many different I lean on a lot of brokers to bring me new products once they get a hold of them.
Okay, great. And there aren't any preferred brokers. I know that some of the grocers are pretty open with the fact that they have preferred brokers that they like to work with. Compass just uses many different brokers. It's not necessarily a preferred engine, right?
So I don't know if Food Buy uses brokers. I don't
Okay.
have insight into that. It's a great question, and I am happy to ask the teams like, hey, do you work with particular brokers? I just work with brokers because I do a lot of product research.
Yeah.
And there is no, I mean, if I have no preference, just I happen to work with brokers that tend to do more in, the natural innovative space.
Okay.
So they tend to bring me products that are more, useful in the retail incubator, and then some of the other, offshoot programs that have come out of that.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much.
And Adrian, if you want to send a note to Greg, we can forward that to Eve and you guys can have a direct conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Greg at naturallychicago.org.
Yep. Thank you.
Excellent. So Daniel Marshall is asking a question about product attributes. Danielle, sorry. Are you there, Danielle? Do you want to ask this live?
I am. I'm actually driving, so there may be some background noise, but I wanted to know regarding the product attributes. For example, non-GMO vegan, is it best to have those certified by qualifying certifying agencies? Or is,
I think it's helpful. I mean, I do when I work with brands that put non-GMO on their packaging, I do use that, but it's always better to be certified. I would say, Trish, you probably have, more insight into that from a brand perspective.
Certifications are really expensive and they take a long time to do and they're a big commitment. But I mean, given that what we do, because we're allergen, gluten, corn, seed oil free, we don't have any we certify because transparency is part of our value. But some people, there's different ways to use it. You could be vegan without vegan certification, but as a woman-owned business or a minority-owned business, I would definitely seek those certifications as soon as possible. One of the mistakes that we made early on is that we didn't seek our minority-owned business certification. Nicole, my co-founder, is Black. And we didn't do our certifications early before we raised capital. And if we would have been grandfathered in as a minority-owned business. 85% of our company is people of color, but you can't go back and do it later, but you can do it now. Particularly minority-owned businesses have a provision that as you raise outside capital, you can keep your minority-owned status, but women-owned businesses, same with veteran-owned businesses and some of the other ones, you have to maintain 51% ownership on the cap table to keep that certification. So it's really hard to keep them as you scale, but I think it's super important and worth it.
Chris, did you have a thought on this as well?
Yeah. So I can tell you from the end user perspective, part of how contracted food service gets business is through the RFP process, right? And that's where certifications become important. Whether it is a legitimate certification group that has listed you as being officially halal or not, right? If the certifications aren't in order, then you have a seat to represent on that list of RFP partners. Is going to be very limited. Sometimes these RFPs, you see the same group who has all the certification being represented by 3 different contracted food service operators because of the lack of folks who have true certifications. And so the minority woman-owned business is one, but when you start talking about things that are hit the the top 9 allergens, etc. As far as allergens, as far as religion, as far as, you can go the depth, but having the right certifications is very helpful, because the way how Contract Food Service gets its business are through the RFPs, and for you to be represented on that, which is actually a strong entry point into this food buy scenario, it makes sense that you have it.
Thank you.
Support what Chris is saying with that. Like, I mean, in terms of product attributes, I think that's one thing, but in terms of minority, women-owned, veteran-owned, NGLCC, any of disability in, I mean, I can't say enough about how important it is to get certified. If you qualify, get certified. There are local certifying bodies. You can go national. Sometimes local tends to be a bit easier to sort of jump through those hoops. I'm happy to send out some information into local certifying bodies. But there is going to be a very big difference in food service. I mean, and really in a lot, despite what's going on in the world with DEI, I can guarantee that there are many companies, including ours, that will not waver on their and Costco and otherwise their support for minority-owned businesses.
Well, while we're there, even Kristopher, if you could just there's I believe that in earlier conversations you mentioned there's a big push towards sustainability and the role of sustainability. Could you, one or both of you, talk a little bit about that?
Chris, you want to go first, or?
Sure. So sustainability has become a huge umbrella, right? What it used to be, it has changed. So Jenny mentioned BIPOC. I mentioned locally crafted. The idea is, how authentic is the item, how much less energy was used to do the production. Is there justice for ownership and justice for training, as far as are you using the local population? So sustainability has become this umbrella that, whether, regardless of the change in governance perspective on DEI, there are some strong points, fundamental points that still remain, as far as how our business of food service functions in the community that it has the business, right? And so that's where the sustainable actions come from. So for a good amount of these accounts, so either is someone representing this sustainability perspective, or someone who covers it within that region to make sure that it is actually being done. And so, yes, it's a major access point, and local is always one of the top categories.
Great. Thanks, Chris. We have another question from Mary Pelletieri from one of our great partner brands, Top Note Tonic. Mary, are you able to ask your question live?
I hope so. I'm here.
There
Can
you
you hear
are.
me?
Yeah.
So yeah, we hear a lot about sustainability, and through COVID, my partner and I have been struggling to find USA made goods, primarily because we didn't want to get stuff shipped from out of country anymore, because of the logistics challenges that we were running into. But we also know there's a lot less carbon miles in USA made packaging, and I don't see a lot talked, considered when we mention that buyers don't seem to react too much to it. But I'm wondering, is that something that is considered when Compass says sustainability? Are they looking at, miles kind of inbound, that scope 1, scope 2 stuff that is part of sustainability?
100%. Absolutely. We've got, just to give you an idea of how important sustainability is to Compass Group as a whole, and from the corporate standpoint. So as I mentioned, Envision is a resource team and essentially like an in-house consultancy. And so we've sort of sat alongside all of our businesses, and sustainability was, primarily within
No,
Envision,
I'm
and
looking for
most
salads. Huh?
and most.
Hey,
Sorry.
Danielle, do you mind muting?
So most recently we've hired a chief strategy officer for Compass Group North America, and now our global sustainability director and team report directly into her. So we've got a major commitment. We put out a sustainability guide, which I'm happy again to share the link. I think it just came out recently, that shows what our carbon footprint is, shows the efforts that we're making to reduce that, and shows the efforts that we're making to work with suppliers that have the same sort of alignment in terms of values with not only carbon footprint, packaging. I mean, nobody knows better than I right now, because all I do is talk to people about, do you have compostable packaging? What are you doing with compostable packaging? And it is not easy. I've got some people working on backyard compostable, more popular as, the commercially compostable.
Mm-hmm.
But we are starting to see that change and shift, and we are starting to see more American-based sustainable packaging available in the CPG industry. So, yeah, I think it will only continue to grow. I think that there is going to continue to be an emphasis. The brands that I look at, almost all of them speak about, that their manufacturing plants are powered by wind energy, and they are, looking to reduce their carbon footprint and carbon emissions with goals, set early, before 2030. So I think not only is it important to Compass Group, but I think that it's, continuing to show importance in the industry.
Yeah, and then that scope one, you're talking about certifications. It's actually hard for a small brand to figure out
Oh,
scope
no
1, 2,
question.
and 3. Is that something that, is that something that a small brand could kind of like attempt to calculate on their own, or do you need those certified scope 1, 2, and 3 data? Because that's also,
No,
so,
it's funny that you mentioned that. I was at a conference. I was actually at, I think, a minority-owned, business-owned conference, and I went to one of the sessions was about sustainability, where they did talk about the different levels of scopes and how those can be calculated and how you can get from, one place to another. Unfortunately, that's definitely not my area of expertise, but I am positive that there would be someone on our sustainability team that would be able to be a better resource for either recommending a resource that would be available to you. So, if you don't mind, maybe you can send Greg that question, or you can send that to me directly, and I'm happy to send it to our sustainability team and find out,
sure.
whatever
Okay.
I can around that.
All right, great, thanks.
Sounds good.
Good question, Mary. We got a couple more questions here before we wrap up. Jeffrey Smith, I'm going to give you a chance there. Are you available to ask your question, Jeffrey?
Here we go. Hello.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi.
Yeah, I was curious. We've been working with Compass Group for some time now. To be very honest with you, at the time that we initially launched our brand, we were under the name Community Kombucha, and we had gone and visited your facility. Oh, geez, I forget the town name. Maybe it's in Itasca. I'm trying to remember where the warehouse is, but essentially presented our products. I think that was back when it was. I remember the coffee distribution company that you guys acquired.
Chicagoland Beverage.
Wasn't Chicagoland
Tradecraft.
Beverage. Tradecraft. Thank you. And
Tradecraft.
Tradecraft had brought our product on. So you guys have done great in supporting us. I think it's been 3 years now. The only problem is there's just been we were hoping for a bit more transparency about finding out where our product is going. We only really find out about it when first and foremost somebody like emails us or posts it on social media, and we kind of put 2 and 2 together. When we kind of go through our network of distributors, like, okay, well, it's not them, it's not them, it's not them, and it has to be Compass Group. So that was one of the things we were curious about. And then the other thing is just like how we can grow our brand in the Compass network, where when we've reached out to our contact, which is the buyer, it really kind of seems to always fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already in Tradecraft, you are in a great space. Tradecraft is owned and operated by Canteen, but that is a great segue into the business. So, I'm happy to see what I can do. Maybe I can reach out to your, to the Tradecraft team. I speak with them quite frequently in terms of finding out where your product is going. I'm going to try and say this in the least negative way possible, but no, we are not allowed to share the names of our clients in which the product is going. It is a question that I get asked literally every day. Oh, can I have a list so that I can follow up and continue working with them? And I would love to do that, but it is part of our contract that we're not allowed to share that information from a corporate perspective. So they're not trying to ghost you or give you the runaround. They're just not allowed to tell you where it's going.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, we kind of figured as much, and we're fine
Sorry.
with that.
I wish I had a better answer or a workaround.
Is what it is. Yep.
Yep. Well, thank you. One last question from Lisa Marsh. Lisa, are you able to speak and ask?
Yes.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, how are you guys this afternoon?
Great.
My question.
Oh, hey, Lisa, you muted.
Okay.
There
Can you
you
hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. My question is about the Envision program. It looks really promising for emerging brands. Is there any upcoming opportunities to apply for that program? And if so, will you be sending that information in the email?
It's such a good question, and I think a great way to sort of wrap up from my perspective. So we are always accepting, always accepting groups that want to participate in the program. If you want to go to our website, which is www.retailincubator.com, you will not only be able to learn more about the products, more about the service, more about the program in general, but there are call to action on every page where you can click on a button. It will take you to a link where you can fill everything out. And I wish I could say that I would get back to you quickly, but I'll get back to you eventually. I do look at all of, our team goes through all of that, but we do it, as frequently as we can. But yeah, just fill it out. Or since you're on this call, I would say send me an email directly. I'm happy to talk to you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Looking forward to speaking to you further.
Good.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Greg, you want to wrap up?
Yeah, this has really been wonderful. Eve, Kristopher, Jenny, and Trish, thank you so much for being here. And, thanks for the entire community being here. This is the first time that we're doing member-specific programming. We've got 3 more planned for this year. We're going to have one on identifying and working with food brokers, Amazon fulfillment and marketing, and another one specializing in co-packing. But this is our first, and the bar is set unbelievably high. So, first of all, thank you, Kristopher and Eve, for sharing the insights and your, openness to working with us in our community. We really appreciate it. Trish, Jenny, thank you for sharing your positive experiences and some of the hardships that you've had as well, because we all know it's, regardless of where you go, it's not an easy sailing. So with that, thank you all very much. We really appreciate you all being here.
Great job, Greg Keller and Bob Bennett.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. Thank you all.